In this video, we'll explore first how to set up the grades tool, and then the creation of an assignment and how it ties back to the grades tool. It's important to note that this video is specifically designed for elementary teachers, as we'll be looking at setting up levels and those types of things within the grades tool. So to get started, click on grades. And the first thing that pops up is the setup wizard. And this is actually something that we want to go through. It's going to help set parameters on any future grades that you set up. It just makes things easier by going through it as a first time. If you've already got a few grades in there already, you can still click on setup wizard and go through this with me. So scroll down to the bottom and click start. The vast majority of these steps that pop up are actually ones that are going to all be preset. So in step one, it's simply asking you, do you want to have a weighted set of grades where you're able to split them up based on different categories or Kika or any of those types of things? Or do you just want points? In all reality, especially in elementary, neither of these really matter, as for the vast majority, if not all of them, you're going to be using levels or other drop-down menus such as like got it, almost there, that type of thing, where there aren't specific numbers attached to it. This is very secondary focused, and you'll find that with a few steps within the setup wizard that some of it is redundant to maybe what you're doing, but Brightspace does still require us to go through it. So my suggestion is you do just keep it as points. Press continue. In step two, it starts talking about creating and finalizing a final grade within the grades tool. As the teacher, you will see a final grade. It's up to you just to totally ignore it, or you could also use it as a data set. A student submits 10 different things over the year to that grades tool, and you look at that final mark and see, that they're sitting around that level 3 or 4. It might just work as an additional triangulation point of data. So for this, I would just keep it as a calculated final grade. Okay, press continue. This one's important for student view. I would always go up here and actually switch it to drop ungraded items. By keeping it as treat ungraded items as 0, the problem there is when you create an assignment, automatically in the grades tool, the student gets 0 on it until they have submitted it and you marked it. But for some students, that might end up being an issue where they see it and think they got 0 on it, or to me, creating that kind of confusion just isn't needed. So I would click here as drop as ungraded. As the teacher, it's up to you if you want to keep that final grade updated or not. I always leave this checked, again, just as sort of an extra point of data for myself for assessment. It's important to note that the students will not see this. In the next few steps, we're going to set it up so the students don't see the final updated grade. So it's just up to you to use or not use. So press continue. This is asking, as a default, what would you like to use for the grade items? So do you want grades to be a percentage where you set, it's out of 10 and it gives a percentage to the student? Do you want to use grades? In general, obviously in elementary, we want to use levels. It's still possible to choose some of these other ones. It's just setting it as the default setting. Press continue. Here again, number of decimals to use as a display option. Very, very secondary focused or numbers focused, where you may not actually be releasing any numbers to students. So just keep it as 2, that's fine. Just a step we have to get through. This is an important step, step 6. Notably right here, this actually refers to what the students will be able to see. Now, points grade is if you do have a grade where you're giving them something out of 20, this would allow them to see it. We're going to leave that unchecked because the assumption is, in general, you're not doing that very often. Instead, you're going to be using levels or one of the other drop-down menus where you can select, got it, almost, not quite yet, those types of feedback assessment pieces. That's what this is saying. Grade scheme symbol is, can the student see the level that you select, or one of the other options that you've chosen, whether it's A, B, or C leveling or that type of thing. So we want to check that. We always want the students to be able to see that. And I would always select this one as well. It actually gives it a color based on how well they did, with green being sort of the highest color and red being one of the lowest levels. We'll keep that at 2. And this was the final one. I would always suggest you uncheck that. That means that the students will not see a final grade calculation. The problem there is, the scenarios where a student sees a final grade in Brightspace, assumes it's actually their final grade, or a parent. So by unselecting this, it means only you as the teacher will see the final grade calculation. These students will not. Press continue, and the final step is simply overviewing what you've done. And press finish. So at this point, we've actually set up the parameters of our grades. And what we really want to do is create a new grade item in order to create an assignment. It is important that you go in this workflow order. So it's important that you do not first create the assignment, because what that will do is it will create a grade item, but it creates a very specific grade item every time that doesn't give you a lot of options. It actually always makes it a point grade item where it's set up so that you have to give it like an out of 10 or out of 20. It doesn't let you select as a level or any of the other options. So by going this way, we create the grade item first, which will then connect the assignment so that when you're marking the assignment, it spits it back out to grades. Okay. You always generally need both a grade item and an assignment. Those two things are important to both be created. But my suggestion is you do start in grades and then move to assignments. So we're already in grades. We want to create a new grade item. Click that. And then this is what I'm talking about, those different options that it's not going to give you if you go the other direction. So in elementary, we generally always want to be selecting this one right here, the select box, because this is going to give you a variety of different assessment options, including that important piece on levels. So we're going to click on select box. First thing you do is name your grade item. I would always name your grade item the same thing that you're going to name your assignment. So in this case, I'm just going to use a simple grading piece to say test. If it is a really long name, you can set a shorter name so that when it shows up in grades, it doesn't take up too much space. Category, I always leave as none. And maximum points. Unfortunately, Brightspace is set up that it all comes back to numbers for Brightspace. And for a lot of us, that's not the assessment framework we're working with. So in order to get around that, if you are going to set this grade item up as a level, as I'm going to, what you do is you actually just make it out of 4. Okay, so that if they get a level 4, they get a 4. If they get level 3, they're going to end up with 3 points. In the end, the student actually never sees the points. It'll be something that you see on your end, but it doesn't really matter at all. We're going to set it up so the student only sees the level they get. This is just sort of a background thing that Brightspace requires you to do. We're going to leave these 2 blank. And finally, grade scheme, I want a level. Okay, so that way, when I actually go to mark the assignment that this grade item is attached to, it will let me select levels. I will note the other one that's used a lot by elementary teachers is this one right here, where it allows you to select got it, almost, not yet. Works really well for really quick formative feedback on a smaller task. The only thing is, if you select that, just come up here and make sure to switch this to 3, because what it will do is it'll give 3 points for got it, 2 points for almost, and 1 point for not yet. So we're going to put that back to 4 and select levels. Okay. None of this really matters. You can do the rest of this in the assignment point. And for the display options, you've actually already preset those when you went through the setup wizard. So at that point, we're going to save and close. We've now created 1/2 of the workflow for creating an assignment. So the next thing we're going to do is go over to assignments, click that. I'm going to click on new assignment. And here we have the assignment and how how it should be looking for you. Now, if it doesn't, it could be that you have the old assignment view on. So I'm going to switch off the old or the new look. You might be looking at this, and I'm not going to go through this in the video because this is actually set to be phased out in the next bit. So if you're looking at this right now, my suggestion is you come up to the down arrow up here, click there, and you actually want to turn on the new assignment edit experience. It's a much easier sort of work through. It's a much easier experience overall. So we're going to turn that on. And then we're able to see the entire thing on one single screenshot where I don't have to scroll down or anything. Everything we need is all right here. So we're creating our assignment. I'm going to name it the same thing that I named the grade item. So test 1. And we want to attach that grade item. That's how we do it right here. So you're going to click on score out of. It's going to give you a bunch of options now just by clicking on it. I want you to come over to this drop down menu right here. Click on the down arrow, and you are going to choose from grades you've already made. So choose from grades. Then, instead of making a new one, we don't want to make a new one. That's what can lead to some issues. You actually want to link to one that you just made. This will give you a drop-down menu of all the grade items that are not currently attached to an assignment. In this case, there's only one. Press OK. And now it's auto-filled the points to 4, and it now knows that this is out of, this is going to be up to a level 4+ that you can have. You can set a due date, include some written instructions, or you can actually go here and have a video of yourself explaining the assignment or an audio recording. You can attach the actual assignment handout right here. If you do have a rubric, you can go here and actually add the rubric. In this case, this course shell doesn't have any rubric, so I would create a new one. So you can actually do some of the grading that way and then select what level you have overall. Under submission types, this is where you can select whether you want only one file submitted or multiple files. And finally, availability, you can even set it so that this assignment is only available for a certain amount of time, as long as it fits within the due date that you selected. So I want this to be visible because I want students to see it right away. I save and close. And at this point, you're done. You've created an assignment. It's linked to the grades tool, and you're good to go. I wanted to show you what it looks like on the student end. So I'm going to flip over. I'm now logged in as a test student. Okay, and they go to assignments. They will now see your assignment. They're going to see, oh, it's not submitted. It will also tell them the due date if we had a due date set. For them to submit an assignment, they're going to click here. Okay, they're going to add a file. So let's assume that they've typed something up in Word. They're going to go to My Computer, Upload, and they're going to go, here's my test assignment right here. They're going to upload it, add. They can type anything out if they want. And they can submit it. And at that point, as the teacher, you now have access to that to mark. So I'm going to flip back over to the teacher. I'm going to click on assignments again. And you'll notice that now we have 1 of 1 complete. I only have 1 student in this course, so it's literally showing me that my whole class has completed the assignment, but yours will be whatever the number of students you have in the course. 1 new submission. In order to mark this, what you do is you stay in the assignments tool. You're actually going to click on the name. This will open up a marking preview where you'll have a list of all your students. When you're ready to evaluate them, you actually click on the evaluate button. And from there, you can actually go into the assignment. So if I click this, it will actually open up the document and I can annotate right on the assignment. There's another video that goes over all of these really great tools. But in terms of marking it, I can actually go here. I can give it a level. So I give it 4. This is showing you what the student will see. So notice that you're not seeing any of those points or anything like that. The student sees the level and then the color. You can add your feedback. You can record feedback. You publish it. And then at that point, I'm going to flip back over to my test student. When they go to grades, they'll have a list of all their grade items, and there is their grade. Notice that the points aren't showing up because we don't want that to show up for them. And if they're looking for more particular feedback, they can, because grades will just show the grade. If they want the specific feedback, so let's say you had written out feedback, you had, also put a voice note, they would click right here on the unread and actually see all of that feedback right there. And that's the workflow on how to set up the grades, set up an assignment, and have it all viewable for students.